I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. Pistons hosted the Washington Wizards tonight in Detroit. Second home game of this week. Their final home game will be against the Knicks tomorrow at Los Angeles Arena. But kind of getting into this game in the quarter notes for the Pistons. No Tobias Harris, is dealing with a hip injury. No Danish Jenkins, which we'll get into why Danish Jenkins was not active and did not play tonight. And then Dario Saric was on the Detroit Pistons injury report as trade pending. So don't really know what his future holds for Detroit, but those were the three guys that did not play tonight. So you had a starting lineup of Cade, Duncan Asar, Stu, and Jalen Duren. Start off, this was a game where Pistons were very sluggish. They just didn't really operate out of the half court well at all, and that has been a thing that they have struggled all season. We know, like, when this team is playing at their best, they're making defensive stops, they're running in transition, they're causing havoc. But Washington did a very good job of limiting the Pistons' running opportunities in this one. Washington just played more aggressive in this first quarter, and they shot the ball over 50% from the field. They finished the game shooting over 54% from the field. Pistons only shot 29%, and Washington had a 34-21 lead. When you just kind of look at their team, yeah, they have 13 wins, but they have a lot of talented players from Bub Carrington to Kashawn George. Sharif Cooper played. Their two-way, Tristan Vukovic. He had multiple threes in this game. But they're a talented team, and, would not surprise me if they're up there in the playoffs next year. They just traded for Trae Young at the deadline on January 6th, traded for Anthony Davis a couple of days ago, and they have Alex Sarr. So they have a very promising future in the Eastern Conference. Going into the second quarter, JB Bickerstaff had to take timeouts right away in the second quarter. Within the first minute and a half, takes a timeout. Did it again at the 8-minute mark. Had to take a timeout. Just the energy was just so low. No one was really playing defense. There was no communication. But the Pistons did surge back in the second quarter. And the lineup that you have to give credit to was Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, and Isaiah Stewart were out there just causing havoc, getting steals, getting stops, and they finished the quarter on a 29-12 run, and they get within 4 at halftime. So it was 56-52, and I was like, okay, maybe they can get back into this game. Maybe they can come out of halftime, make adjustments, make sure that the energy is a little bit up there, make stops, try to push the pace in transition, but it just wasn't really the case. I know Duncan came out, he hit back-to-back threes. He had a good game. But it was just a thing where he had an injury pop up. Jalen Duren didn't finish this game. Right knee soreness, didn't return. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. Washington just went back up. They responded on a 15-1 run in a very short amount of time. And there was a lineup out there, and I don't really know if it was a thing where JB was just trying to play, different guys that he usually doesn't play because the energy was low tonight. But for a long majority in the third, you had Pistons two-way player Wendell Moore playing some, pretty significant minutes while Asar Thompson was on the bench. Asar did eventually, come back, but Wendell Moore got some clock. So you had a lineup of Marcus Astor playing point, Harris LeVert playing shooting guard, Wendell Moore at small forward, Javonte Green at power forward, and Paul Reed at center. They did, kind of get back into this game, got the game within 11, so it was 95-84. And the Pistons surged back after being down 11. They got it within 4, but Washington just made so many tough shots. It were almost like fluky shots to the point where like you just have to tip your cap to them collectively. But they drop 126 points on the Pistons, and the final score is 126-117. That is the 13th loss of the season for the Pistons. They will have the New York Knicks tomorrow. And when you kind of look at the odds from FanDuel, going into this game, they had the Pistons as a 14-point favorite. That obviously was not the case. The Detroit Pistons never even had a lead in this one. And, Washington did their homework. They watched the film and they really limited the Pistons in the half court. I do see you guys, drop in some comments in the live chat. We'll get to that after we're going over the box score and the team stats. If you guys are brand new here, if you're not, you kind of know how we do these post-game podcasts. So we get into the box score for the Detroit Pistons in this one. Duncan Robinson, 30 minutes, another impressive game by him, 21 points, 6 out of 15 from the field, 6 out of 15 from 3, 3 for 3 from the free throw line, 3 assists, 1 rebound. He was a -7. Isaiah Stewart in a start for Tobias Harris in this one. 29 minutes, only 4 points by Stu, 2 rebounds, 2 turnovers. He was a -3. Jalen Duren in 13 minutes, only played in the first half. Obviously, 4 points, 2 out of 6 from the field, 3 rebounds, 2 turnovers. He was a -15 in the box score. Cade Cunningham in 38 minutes had 30 points on 10 out of 21 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, 10 out of 13 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 turnovers. He was a -16, led the team in plus minus in the negative area. Asar Thompson in 33 minutes had 13 points, 5 out of 8 from the field, 3 out of 4 from 3, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 4 steals, 2 blocks. He was just everywhere defensively. Obviously, he still played 33 minutes, and I was really surprised to see Wendell Moore, even get the 6 minutes that he did have, because he hasn't really been a consistent rotation player. He's been more of a Motor City Cruise G League player. But Paul Reed in this one, filling in for the injured Jalen Duren and kind of playing a reserve role tonight, had 13 minutes, 7 points, 3 out of 4 from the field, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 1 turnover, was a 0 on the plus minus. Wendell Moore in 6 minutes had 4 points, 1 for 1 from the field, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, was a +9, led the Detroit Pistons in the plus minus. Tonight, Ron Holland in 25 minutes had 11 points, 4 out of 9 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, 3 out of 4 from the free throw line, had 10 big rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, was a +3. Javonte Green in 18 minutes had 8 points, 3 out of 6 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 3 turnovers, was a -2. Karis LeVert in 16 minutes had 7 points, 3 out of 7 from the field, made 1 free throw, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, was a -4. Newly acquired Pistons, Kevin Huerter only played 6 minutes, was 0 for 2 from the field, and they were both 3-point attempts. He had 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal. It's a -7. Marcus Sasser got a little bit of clock with Danish Jenkins not being available tonight. Had 8 points, 3 out of 6 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover, 2 steals. It was a +2. Bobby Klitman and Chaz Lanier were both coach decisions, DMPs. So that's kind of the box score for the Pistons. As you can tell, it was a very rough shooting night for them collectively. Kind of getting into the team stats, kind of tell a little bit more of the story. Washington shot 54% from the field and also 44% from 3. Pistons shot 47% from the field and 27% from 3. Washington shot 56% from the free throw line, where they were 10 out of 18. Pistons shot 79%, where they were 26 out of 33. So the Pistons did get to the free throw line a lot more than Washington. They out-rebounded them 47-39. The Pistons got out assisted by the Wizards. They had 30 to the Pistons 22. Pistons had more steals in this one with 11. Washington had more blocks than the Pistons. They had 6 to the Pistons 5. Turnovers, both teams just did not take care of the basketball. Pistons had 15. Washington had 17. Points off turnovers, Pistons 28. Washington 24. Fast break points, Pistons had 25, which is usually kind of like a staple for them to being able to kind of just like keep leads and sustain leads, and getting to the free throw line as well. 60 points in the paint. But this was just a game where Washington just was hotter from the field. They were just making some unbelievable shots. But do want to kind of get into more comments and questions with you guys, open up the Q&A. So let's kind of get into that. I do see some people leaving some comments with tonight's game, also some just overall comments about the trade deadline. So we'll start with DJ Billy Bob. So his comment says, so no Danis being out shows they need him. Don't you agree? I do. I don't know what the Pistons are doing, but they better sign him soon. By the way, latest on Duran, prayers. So I think the reason why the Detroit Pistons decided to not have Danis active, because if you guys don't know, when you're on a two-way contract, you're able to spend 50 active games, not games played, 50 active games with the team. He's currently sitting at 49. So he's got one more active game until he has to be converted. I would assume he's active for the next game tomorrow. I don't think they wanted to waste it on the Wizards. I do think he will be converted. The issue with that right now is they're over the limit with roster spots. And the reason why I think it's interesting is because you have Dario Saric, but on the starting lineup that the Detroit Pistons public relations department puts out, if you looked at Dario Saric's name, it says trade pending. If you go on the official Detroit Pistons website, Dario Saric's name is not mentioned whatsoever. If I had to guess, he probably does get waived. The Pistons did use $5 million of their trade exception to actually absorb his contract, so they still have around $8 million of trade exception to use until July 7th. But as it does relate to Danis Jenkins, I do think he will be converted. I think the Pistons are just getting everything situated with Dario Saric and possibly waiving him. They did waive Isaac Jones, so they have to get rid of one more player to make room for Danis Jenkins. As it does relate to the Jalen Duren, the latest on him, I know JB Bickerstaff said that it was something that he was kind of dealing with his knee. We'll probably get an update latest, I would probably say around 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow, when the Pistons do kind of, update their injury reports. And I'll try to like stay on top of that and kind of seeing like what his availability is. I do know with the New York Knicks, they are actually pretty banged up as well. I know I saw James Edwards, former Detroit Pistons beat reporter, tweet before the Pistons Wizards game tonight about their injuries, and I can just read it to you guys right now if you guys didn't see it. So James said the Knicks are listing OG Anunoby probable right toe soreness, Josh Hart left ankle and Cat eye laceration as questionable. Miles McBride is out for Friday's game against Detroit. Jose Alvarado deal isn't official, so no clue yet if he'll play tomorrow. I doubt it. So the Knicks are dealing with their injuries. James doesn't know if Jose Alvarado, who they traded for today, will be available, because like a lot of times with trades, the trade has to get one finalized and then these players have to pass physicals. So there is kind of like a process during the trade deadline. So I know Tobias was out with a hip. Cade was kind of questionable with his wrist. So hopefully Duran's good to go, but we'll have to wait and see. Wes Weaver, this was needed reminder that they're not invisible. Obviously, I think when you kind of watch this game tonight, it's a very frustrating game to watch because the Pistons should have handled the Wizards tonight. I just felt like the energy in the first and probably I would say like 5.5 minutes into the second just wasn't there. Like if you would have played the way you did to kind of end the second quarter, you probably win this game by a good 15 points. Like there's no contest, but they just really didn't do a good job of addressing the Wizards. It seems like so many times they were getting second chance opportunities, crashing the glass, and they were just making a lot of difficult shots. But I think the energy level to the standard that the Pistons always talk about playing with, it just wasn't there. Next game is going to be rough tomorrow. It's going to be a good game. Like it's going to be an Amazon Prime game. It'll be a really good game for not only Knicks fans but Pistons fans. I feel like these games just kind of mean a little bit more, even though it is a regular season game. That's a team that sent you home in the playoffs last year. Last time you beat them by 30. I'm sure the Pistons are probably going to go into that game pissed off, especially with the performance tonight. So maybe they'll play with the chip on their shoulder. And, you know, when the game starts at 7:30, they're ready to play at 7:30, not 8. Like I felt like the Pistons weren't actually ready to play tonight at 7 until like 7:45. Like hopefully they come in as soon as that ball is thrown up in the first quarter. They're ready to play. They're ready to play. So we'll see. Um, Wes does have another other question for myself. I asked you last week how far you see the Pistons going if they make a trade or not now that they've made this trade. What are your thoughts? I do have some thoughts with the trade deadline. I think as it does relate to the Pistons right now and how far I think they could possibly go. I think the way that they're constructed, we can talk about their strengths. I think we can all agree that this team loves to play in transition. They love getting to the free throw line. They love being disrupted defensively. But as you get closer to the playoffs, everything slows down. It becomes a half court game. I just don't really know if you can kind of bring what has brought you success in the regular season to the playoffs. I don't know if you can rely on your transition game. I don't know if you can rely getting to the free throw line 20 to 25 times a night. Everything becomes a half court setting, and we've touched on it on multiple post game podcasts. This is not a good half court set team. If Cade Cunningham isn't initiating almost every possession, this is a team that does struggle to generate good looks. I felt like in the first quarter tonight, and you guys can go back and watch the game. Like if you haven't, we were we weren't really swinging the ball side to side. There wasn't really any ball movement. It was like maybe one pass, difficult jump shot, one pass, take a three. I think if the Pistons want to make it out of the first round, they're definitely going to have to upgrade the half court scoring, definitely get better in that area. And I think they're capable of it. It's just, I think a lot of times this team doesn't move the ball as much as I think that they can. I've seen possessions where they're swinging the ball side to side. There's backdoor cuts, there's player movement, there's body movement, but um, especially in this first quarter tonight, they really didn't do that whatsoever. But my thoughts on just this team. I think they can get out of the first round. I think getting out of the second round, it's going to be difficult if you don't, adjust your half court scoring because this game, playoffs, just slow way down, way down. I'm not too surprised at the deadline moves. Just kind of given everything that this organization has kind of told Pistons fans, saying like, "Hey, if we do make moves, they're going to be on the margins. They're going to be very small, nothing big." And I think a big reason why the Pistons weren't really players for like a Michael Porter Jr. or Anthony Davis or Jaren Jackson Jr. I might have said Jaren Jackson Jr. twice. I think the big reason why they weren't is because of what they have to consider going into this offseason. And I can kind of elaborate. Like when we talk about Jalen Duren, he was eligible for a contract extension this summer. Pistons didn't get a deal done at the deadline, and they said, "Hey, Blake, bet on yourself, go prove it." And I think we can agree, Jalen Duren has had a phenomenal season, made his first All-Star game as a reserve. I think the price has gone up. Reports early on this summer was around 30 to 35. Throughout the season, we've heard anywhere from like 38 to 40. I've been listening to some other national podcast. They're kind of projecting Jalen Duren being, if not the max, close to the max to keep Jalen Duren in the Detroit Pistons uniform. So you're possibly talking close to a $200 million contract for Jalen Duren. And then you also have to worry about Asar Thompson the following year and Isaiah Stewart. I think where the organization is at right now collectively is they want to keep guys like Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson in a Detroit Pistons uniform. And if they're fortunate enough, Ron Holland, and that's not something they have to really worry about right now. But I think that's the reason why they took on a Kevin Huerter, because he's expiring. It's the reason why they agreed to take a Dario Saric, because he's expiring. You have Tobias Harris's money coming off the books at $26 million. That's expiring. Jalen Duren may take a big bulk of that cap because they didn't get a deal done this summer. Now, I know some people might try to retract that and say, like, well, they'll still extend Duren. They should have, traded 2-3 first-round picks, for a Michael Porter Jr. or whoever it may be to try to, cash in on this number one seed. The East is wide open as it ever will be with the injuries to Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum, which I agree with you guys. I just think the way that this organization is looking at it, they're looking at it outside of this year. They're looking at it where they want to keep the core intact. And I think if they do make a big move, it'll be in the playoffs where maybe we can all agree they need a secondary scorer right now, right? I think they're just kind of waiting to see what happens come playoff time to address what they need. But I think a big reason why the Pistons, one, moved on from Jaden Ivey is because of Jalen Duren's emergence as an all-star and the contract that, he could possibly get. Like, he could get close to a max contract this year, you guys. Really could. But again, I still think this is a really good basketball team. I think there's a lot of positives with this team. I'm not going to overreact after one loss, even though the one loss was really bad tonight. I think they can clean stuff up against the New York Knicks tomorrow. But I do see some people talking about Cam Thomas. He did get waived tonight. And obviously, I think the Pistons, or I should say Pistons fans, I shouldn't, label the Pistons. Pistons fans are looking at Cam Thomas. Could it be an option? I wouldn't be opposed to it. I really wouldn't. I just think, like, when you look at this team, like, you have a Marcus Sasser who's kind of a similar type of player. Obviously, Cam Thomas has had games where I feel like he's had more 30-point performances. I don't really know if the Pistons are going to be players for his services, because at the end of the day, the guy just scores the basketball. Doesn't play a whole lot of defense, just scores. Doesn't even pass it for that matter. He just scores. There could be some, maybe players on the buyout market. Again, like, you still have to make roster cuts. You still have to make a decision on Dario Saric, Danish Jenkins, who I think the Pistons are really in love with as a backup guard for this team. He could get the final roster spot. There are lower tier guys on this roster that don't really contribute at all, like a Bobby Klitman, who's just played in the G League. He hasn't been in the rotation whatsoever. It's just more just garbage time for him. Like, if the Pistons would be like really in love with the Cam Thomas and they just want to waive Bobby Klitman and go get him, sure. But I don't really foresee them doing that. I could see other teams doing that. I think they're kind of happy with like what they have, but that's just kind of my assessment with it. I do see a comment about the front office. The front office is being chicken to make moves in squandering this year and probably next. I wouldn't really say they're chicken. I think that they're just being mindful of like what they want this team to look like, outside of this year. Because I think they understand Cade's on a max deal. He's making $50 million. Duran could be making anywhere from 40 close to $50 million. Stu is on $16 million. You do have some expiring money to kind of play with to fill out your bench. I don't really think they're scared. I just don't really think that they're in the mindset of trading multiple first round picks for players. And we don't really know like what the asking price was for a Michael Porter Jr. We don't know like what the asking price was for other players around the league. Like we saw Jaren Jackson Jr. go for 3 first. We saw Anthony Davis go for a couple of first and some players, some rotational players. But I don't really think the Pistons are like open to making a move right now. I do think if they make a move, it will be this summer. Like I think it'll be this summer. I think similar to what Orlando did, where they went all in for Desmond Bane. I'm not saying the Pistons are going to make a Desmond Bane type trade, but I think that's what I'm waiting for. Like if they just flame out in the playoffs and they don't do well, then yeah, they'll probably get what they need, secondary score, which I think we can all agree, and make that move. But I think for right now, we have to wait and see how the season does play out. If they can keep that number 1 seed, where are the seedings? Who are they playing? Outside of the play-in tournament, I don't think they're just going to fall off drastically and, fall out of the top 4 whatsoever. I think, health dependent, they'll probably still be anywhere from like a 1 to 3 seed. It's still a lot of NBA basketball to be played. A lot of teams in the East did improve from Cleveland to Boston. Even Indiana improved tonight, getting Zubac, trading Mathurin to the Clippers. But it'll be interesting to see what does happen with this rest of the season. I'm still fairly confident in this team. Obviously, I think some Pistons fans are just kind of worried because they felt like we should have capitalized on the window that we have right now. But hey, I'll let you guys do that. I'm never going to tell a fan on a fan. I have a different opinion on it. I never really felt like there was like a deal out there that really made a lot of sense for them in the long term. But I think there were definitely some short-term moves that you could have made to, get a secondary score. We just don't really know like how bad like the offers were for, certain players. But I do want to wrap up this podcast. Hope you guys are having a great night. Take care. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.